Kremlin is downplaying the scale of the Kursk region events, while American analysts are unlikely to exaggerate. He chose to declare a counter-terrorist operation instead of martial law. The Institute for the Study of War, closely monitoring the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, highlights this decision's significance. The Russian authorities are said to be unwilling to take more radical measures in response to the situation. The Russian opposition outlet Verstka reported that a source close to the Defense Committee of the Federation Council said the Kremlin advised Russian MPs and senators to avoid commenting on the Kursk region events until further notice, or to discuss them briefly and refer only to official statements. Russian Z military commanders suggested that the Kremlin officially declare war on Ukraine and criticized the Kremlin for not even declaring martial law. The declaration of martial law would have allowed the Russian authorities to take more radical and decisive measures, such as banning rallies and demonstrations, imposing curfews, and organizing the production of defense products for the military. But it is clear that rallies are already banned in Russia. A large part of the economy is already on military lines, and no one will go to demonstrations, at least not now. The West and the Institute for the Study of War are confident that Russian President Putin is refraining from officially declaring a state of war and has repeatedly demonstrated his unwillingness to fully put Russian society on a military footing and has refused to declare general mobilization. He needs all this indecision to prevent internal discontent that could jeopardize the stability of the Putin regime. Imagine it turns out that in the West, Putin's actions are assessed as being undecisive, because if he were more decisive, if he put more pressure on the Russians, they might overthrow him. Well, it looks amazing to me, but now I need to understand what Ihor Chelenko has to say about it. Political scientist and head of the Center for Analysis and Strategies. Mr. Ihor, hello. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Greetings. I would like to start our conversation with this question, which you probably heard. Do you think that Putin is really so restrained because he fears the worst? Fears that the Russians will stab him in the back? Putin really doesn't know what to do right now. He's being called on to impose martial law in the Kursk region and elsewhere. But he's had martial law in place for a long time, including in the Kursk region since 22. It was an average level of response. That is, when they introduced martial law in the occupied Ukrainian territories, it was introduced in all aspects. But in the Kursk region, in particular in the border regions, this medium level of response was applied. This shows that the Russian authorities and army were completely unprepared, and almost 2 years after the introduction of martial law elements, including in the Kursk region, what happened. Therefore, of course, the KTO regime is an attempt to do at least something, but in the current situation, it will in no way increase the control of the situation by the Kremlin authorities. And will lead to even more criticism from his own military commanders. Putin thought that he had tamed the military commanders after Prigozhin's death. Remember, before the elections, the pseudo-elections of the Russian president, they did everything they could to build a clear vertical so that not a single word from the military commanders could be heard. The situation in the Kursk region has shown that all previous actions have been completely in vain. Putin himself realizes that all the further concentration of power that he has done over the past year has also proved to be in vain. I would not be surprised if there is now a growing realization among Russian elites that if Putin is not in control, he needs to be replaced. It is clear that no one will show this now. But the situation in the Kursk region is a litmus test of the complete inability of the Russian authorities to ensure security on their own internationally recognized territory. And most importantly, even the Russians themselves, meaning the elite, realize that Putin is responsible for all of this. When ordinary Russians who watch TV and listen to Skabeeva and her ilk are interviewed, they ask how it happened that by supporting the AFU, troops are coming to us. People are confused about the cause and effect relationship, but it is clear that over time, and this time will be accelerated as much as possible, the epiphany will come, and this will deal additional blows directly to Putin's power.